Hey Facebook, hey Periscope, I'm dual broadcasting. I've got a word that the Lord gave me tonight. So we're going to have a little Monday night Bible study. I am Melody Reynolds. I am a Bible-loving, Jesus-loving, homeschooling, business-owning mama. So whenever I get a word from the Lord, I have learned to be obedient and to step out and share this. And for me, that means on social media. That's where my ministry is. That's where my peeps hang out. Hey, Melissa, I see people coming in on Facebook. Hey, Cheryl, how are you, darling? And on Periscope. So as you come in, if you would let me know you're here, say hey. You can tell me where you're watching in from. And if you can still give hearts even on Facebook, that just lets me know you're here and you're vibing and my connection is good. And of course, if you share this, if you would please invite followers on Periscope and share this on Facebook, because hello, this is the word. I think everybody needs to hear the word, okay? That's just my opinion. Everybody needs to hear it. So DJ, I do remember you. I do. I haven't been on in about a week or so. My daughter hurt herself and we've just been crazy. But I'm here tonight, so I'm glad to have you in. Glad you're here. Sorry. To look at the comments, I've got to look over here in the corner, so forgive me if it looks like I'm looking off. I'm reading everybody's comments. Thank you so much for the hearts and the shares over on Facebook. I appreciate that. It's good to see you guys. So I'm just going to hop into it. If you want to follow along, you can go to Exodus 4. What I'm doing, let me back up and tell you a second. I've never read the Bible from front to back, all like in order consecutively. I don't really believe in doing that. I think you need to start in the Gospels, not in Genesis. I think you need to go meet Jesus first, see who he was, what he did on this earth. I understood that much better. And then I had a desire, after I spent some time in the New Testament with Jesus, to go back to the Old Testament and learn what things went on before Jesus. So I really encourage you to do that if you're struggling, if you're like, I used to start Genesis and get bored to tears or totally confused. Now I dig on some Old and New Testament, not just, oh good, you can hear me better, good. So if it is difficult for you to understand a lot of this, start in the Gospels. But I read Genesis last month. I kind of was in Luke some too. But I read through Genesis, and now I'm reading through Exodus. And I'm just going to take my time as I go through. I like to linger. I'm only reading about 1 to 2 chapters a day. I don't feel like I need to sit down and read 3 hours of, oh my gosh, it is Tuesday night. No, it's Monday night. I don't know, it's Tuesday night. What day is it? It is Tuesday. I just did Tuesday night team training. And I put Monday night on here. Oh well, listen, I work from home. Sometimes I don't know what day it is. It is Tuesday. You know what? It feels like a Monday to me. It just does. Everything possibly that could have just come at me today did, so it feels like a Monday. Whatever. Y'all know. As long as you know what day it is, that's cool. I'll fix it on Facebook later. Periscope, just love me, okay? Just love me. So I know, it feels like, I really wish it was Friday. It's probably I've been doing that a lot here lately too, y'all. So I'm a Jesus follower. I don't identify myself with any certain, I just love Jesus. I don't need a label, okay? I'm just a Jesus follower. I don't believe in labels. I have somebody on Periscope asking me, what, am I Baptist? Am I this? No, I'm Jesus. So I don't think you need labels like that. I think that's where we get into trouble. So that's right, I'm a Jesus freak. I haven't heard that term in a long time. Okay, so let's get into the word. As I said, I read Genesis. I'm reading through Exodus, and I'm just tracking what I read. I have a little coloring chart. I'm just coloring in what I read. As I go. If you want to track yours somewhere, you are more than welcome to do that. I'm not going to rush myself through this. Like I said, I'm only going to read 1 to 2 chapters so I can really think about it and understand it. Now, I have read Exodus before. I love Moses. I'm just going to tell you right now, I identify a lot with Peter and I identify a lot with Moses. And I'll show you why in a minute. I don't want to get into it yet. And you will see I get really excited about Moses. Moses was a very great man of God. If you don't know anything about Moses, there are lots of like little videos and things you can look up on YouTube, even children's Bibles. Start with those, you know, get an idea of who he was, like his basic story, and then you can go over and read about him in whatever version of the Bible you choose to read. Hey, Holly, good to see you. So I have read this before, but something you need to know about the word, if you don't already know it, is every time, yes, DJ, you're right. Every time I read the Bible, I get something new from it. And I've read Exodus a couple of times, and I've watched all the movies about Moses, of course, as I'm sure a lot of people, you've probably either somebody older in your family watched one of the old Moses movies, or you've seen a new one. He's kind of one of the more familiar people from the Bible. So Megan says one of her favorite stories in the Bible. Hi, Regina. Tuesday. Y'all, I know it's Tuesday. I'm so sorry. I'm trying. Listen, when you work from home, you don't know what day it is because you're just always doing stuff. So anyway, Moses is, he does these great things for God, but I want to show you that Moses was flawed. Moses was far from perfect. We need to get out of the idea that God only uses perfect people, because throughout the entire Bible, we see that God uses broken people. He uses people that you'd be like, why did, and I was thinking to myself today, why did God choose Moses? And I'm going to show you why in just a second, why I thought that. We have to understand that he can use any of us at any time to do anything. And when we really let our minds swallow that fact, absorb that fact, you're going to see great things happen in your life. So let me read this to you, and then I can really get into you with Moses. And you date them. I love that. The way you mark and color the verses. I like that. I really like that a lot. Okay, so we're into Exodus 4:10. Okay? So let me give you a little bit of, yeah, everybody's got a sketchy past. Ain't that right? Yes, absolutely. We all do. We all have things that we're like, what was I thinking? Can I get an amen? Okay, so God has asked Moses, okay, let me give you a background. Let me back up for just a second. God has told Moses, you're going to go see Pharaoh, and you're going to tell him to let the Israelites go. The Israelites are God's people. And he's like, you're going to go, Moses. Moses is like moseying along doing his thing, and God just comes to him. He's like, I'm going to give you something big to do. Big. I'm going to give you this big, huge task to do. And he's like, you're going to go tell Pharaoh to let my people go out of Egypt. And here's what Moses' response is to that, okay? Moses, this is why I love him. Hold on. So 4:10, it says, and Moses said to the Lord, O Lord, I am not eloquent or a man of words. Neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, for I am slow of speech and have a heavy and awkward tongue. So let me break this down into melody speak. Moses stuttered. Moses had a speech impediment. And as soon as God tells him, you're going to do this great and mighty thing, you're going to go speak to Pharaoh, which would have been in front of a lot of people, and you're going to tell him that I said this. Moses immediately looks at, do you know that I can't talk? Do you understand that I have a speech impediment and that I stutter? He immediately goes to his flaws. First lesson for tonight, how often is it when we see a huge opportunity in front of us that we go, can I really do that? This is me. How am I going to be able to make that happen? Or maybe God's asked you to do something big and you go, there is no way I can do that. At all. Right? So here is what God says. I love this. Y'all got to hear this right now. If you're doing something, stop and listen. So Moses says, I stutter. Do you get that? Do you know that? Right? Yes, Megan, I am. That just hit me. That just hit me. So he says, Megan said, you're speaking right to me. She's one of my Young Living sisters that's doing the business with me, and we had a conversation earlier about public speaking. So this is perfect. Hey, Michelle. So Moses says, I can't, I stutter. Here's my flaws. And God says, it says, and the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the dumb or the deaf or the seeing or the blind? Is it not I, the Lord? So he says, let me put this in melody speak for you. Do you think I don't know that, Moses? God's like, do you think you're telling me something I don't already know? No, I made you. I made everything. I already know this, Moses. So, hey, darling. So then he says, and I love this, okay? He says, now therefore go, and I will be your mouth and will teach you what you shall say. Let's all soak that in for a minute. I'm going to pause right here. So let me sum this story up for you. So God tells Moses, you're going to do this great and mighty thing. Moses immediately thinks of his flaws. Like, Lord, why are you asking me to do something like this? I stutter. I'm not eloquent. I'm not the man for you for this job. God says, do you think I don't already know that about you? I made you, Moses. I made everything. He says, don't you worry about it because I will be with you. Whatever it is that we are doing, he is with us. We don't have to know how it's going to work out. We don't have to know how he's going to accomplish these things. We only need to be obedient in what he asks us to do. I don't always feel comfortable getting on here and sharing things like this. It is very faith. Amen, Cheryl. It's not easy. I think people sometimes will see people getting on these lives and they're sharing. Thank you for inviting followers, Mr. Kwan. I think people see people getting on these live broadcasts, and I'm in front of a lot of people. I don't have a degree. I didn't go to a Bible college, right? I was a teacher for 10 years, and now I run my own business from home with essential oils. But I have a heart for Jesus, and God speaks these things into me. And I feel like part of what he's asked me to do is to share it wherever I am. So I'm all over. Yes, but I have like 8,000 on Facebook. So I'm all over social media. I've got, followers on pretty much every platform. And so for me, and even if I was just in front of an audience of one, I would still share it if the Lord told me to. But it's hard. It's hard to come on here and share these amazing things sometimes, because in my mind, I'm thinking, am I qualified? I'm like Moses. Am I qualified for this? Is anybody going to get anything from this? Am I going to be able to say this in a way that people are going to get what's in my heart? And so this almost makes me want to cry. It really does. I'm fighting back tears. Because I want to tell you all, do what God's asking you to do. You don't have to be qualified. You don't have to know how it's all going to work out. He will work it all out for you. He's in control of it all. He knows your heart. He knows what you have to offer the world. He knows the gifts and the talents he put in you. You don't do it because of your ability. You do it because of his. You do it because he is able. And he goes with you. And he loves you. And he will make it all work out for his glory in the end. And when we start to take ourselves out of the equation and go, it's not what I can do with it, it's what God can do with it. And the reason it gets me is because I know so many people that are afraid to step out. And I see their beauty and I see their strength and I see their gifts and talents, and they don't see them themselves. And I'm like, you have this great thing in you, but you got to release it to the world. You got to step up and be scared and be flawed and not be so elegant and cry on social media and possibly cry your fake lashes off and get told on Periscope that crying is boring by a troll. And you have to go on anyway Because despite it all, if one person hears me tonight and they step forward in something that they really want to do, life is not easy. But life holds so many possibilities that we cheat ourselves out of because, like Moses, we question ourselves. We don't have any faith in who we are and what God has placed in us. Because the world tells us we can't, and other people tell us we can't, and the enemy gets in our mind, and we tell ourselves, I can't do it. We talk ourselves out of blessing other people and helping other people and ourselves and our own families. And so, yeah, Moses stuttered and God worked his way around it. God already knew that. So whatever it is that you feel burning inside of you, I don't care what it is. If something is important to you and it lights you up and it burns inside of you, share it. Forget about rejection. Forget about, what other people are going to think. Forget about other people's opinions and go for it because God is with you. You don't have to do it all alone. He'll use that little bit of obedience that you can give him. When you step out of the boat and put your feet on the water, you can't be a water walker until you get out of the boat. Oh, Cheryl, I'm so glad to hear that. She says that's helping her to make a decision she's been praying about. Embrace who you are in God. I love that. Absolutely. You have to embrace who you are. And when you do that enough and you see God, because if you continue reading with me, and I invite you to join me, I'm going to be doing lessons from Exodus because that's what I'm reading right now. And then I'm going to put all of these videos on my website over at melodyreynolds.com, and you can have those like all in one place. But so that way it'll be like Bible studies over there, so you don't have to constantly be looking through everywhere else. But I do like when you join me live. So I'm going to be reading through Exodus, and it's all about Moses leading the Israelites out of slavery and into the promised land. This imperfect man, before he even got to this point, he had murdered someone and he ran from it and spent 40 years kind of dawdling and hiding from it, and God calls him out from that. And Moses, who's not elegant, who's like jacked up, he's got some issues. He likes to argue with God, which is why I love him, because I do that too. I'm always like, he was a fugitive. I'm always like, Lord, do you know what you're asking? This is me. You're telling me I'm going to do what now? That's why I love Moses, because I have a conversation. I'm not afraid to ask God hard questions. I'm not afraid to be like, I'm confused, I'm frustrated, I need a little bit of why this is going on or why you're asking me to do this right now. Can you give me a little bit, Lord? And he usually gives me enough to keep me going, but not always enough to answer my questions. I am not qualified, that's right. He qualifies us. So, didn't expect that to be so emotional. I read this today and really had to fight back the tears because that's why I came on here to share this tonight, because that really just grabbed my heart today. And I thought, it's for me and it's for anybody else that cares to take the time to hear me, because we do give up too early sometimes, or we don't even try because we don't think enough of ourselves. We don't see ourselves the way God does. And God saw Moses, he was going to lead people to the promised land. That was a huge, huge thing in the Bible, a huge event to happen. And Moses was the one that did it, despite all his fears, despite all his flaws, despite all his mistakes. And I think that's a lesson for all of us. So I hope this was helpful tonight for somebody. I hope this blesses you. I hope you receive this message. Mr. Kwan on Periscope says, he made us different for a reason. That's right. We are all imperfect with God, and he will make us perfect. Absolutely. And he can use whatever. As long as we're willing to give of ourselves, he can use that to do whatever he wants with it. But you got to stop shutting it down before he even has the opportunity to show you what can be possible. And it can be anything. You know, you can be leading your family out of generational curses. You can be leading other people to Jesus. You can be helping somebody to dig themselves out of, financial troubles that are holding them back spiritually. There's lots. It can be anything. God can do anything if you work with him. So if you've been talking yourself out of something major, put your Moses pants on and just do it, okay? All right, guys, I love you. I pray that this blesses somebody, and I'll be back soon. It's Tuesday night. Thanks for letting me know. Love you guys. Bye.